What if the reason you keep hitting the same wall in your career or business isn't lack of strategy, but an unhealed part of you that's been running the show all along? In this episode, we'll uncover how to break free from the invisible limits, tap into deep self-trust, and finally move from stuck to unstoppable. Hi, and welcome to the U World Order Showcase podcast, where we feature life, health, transformational coaches, and spiritual entrepreneurs stepping up to be the change they seek in the world. I'm your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist, on a mission to help coaches and entrepreneurs amplify their voice, monetize their mission, and get visible. If you're ready to start attracting premium clients without chasing algorithms or hunting people down like a banshee on a mission, head over to coachesalchemist.com and schedule your free client acquisition audit. It's the first step to building a business where your clients seek you out rather than you having to hunt them down. Today, we are chatting with Bobbie Maloy. Bobbie is a transformational coach, author, speaker, entrepreneur, and former U.S. Marine who helps leaders and organizations break through hidden barriers that hold back performance. With a unique blend of mental toughness and emotional intelligence, Bobbie empowers professionals to build unshakable self-trust, adapt to challenges, and align their work with purpose. As the author of Healing Your Inner Child and creator of the Aligned Self Method, she brings proven strategies that help high achievers move from stuck to unstoppable. Welcome to the show, Bobbie. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
All right, let's ask you the big question. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
What's the most significant thing, in your opinion, as individuals we can do to make an impact on how the world is going?
Stop listening to external sources. So there's way too much noise out here. If you're watching, if you're just listening, there's too many external noises. And we, as a people, as individuals, don't listen internally enough to what we should do, how we should move. We listen way too much to other people's opinions. And it's part of the reason that ultimately we're going to get into. It's a lot of the reason why people don't succeed doing what it is that they're going after.
I love this. And I can imagine your Marine training really has fed into this because boot camp, from what I understand, is about stripping us back to the very basics and making everybody the same. And then we can start layering stuff on.
For
Is that
sure. Well, yeah, it definitely had a lot to do with my life. I actually went to boot camp twice. I got hurt the first time and sent home. And that's exactly what happened. So I was 18 and they strip away what kind of who you are and all the way down to like you don't exactly think you're worth much.
Mhm.
Well, that's when I got hurt and sent home, is after they had stripped away our ego. And so I went through a pretty low period shortly after that, like depression and everything, because I had just been told like I'm lower than, well, oh, let's see, the PC version is I'm lower than whale poop, and that's at the bottom of the ocean. So think about where my mental state was after I had gotten hurt and sent home. Well, I pulled myself over time out of that to being a little bit less than feeling like I'm the lowest person in the world. And then I lost the job that I had at the time, and I was like, "Oh man, I'm going to try and go for this other position." And but they wanted my military records because they knew that I had at least a little bit of military service. The only place I knew to go to talk about anything to the military was the recruiter again. So 6 weeks later, I was in boot camp again. From there, I actually did make it through, graduated as a Marine, but that's exactly what happened. They couldn't tear me down the second time because they'd already done that once. And I pulled myself out of that. And then they added and layered on top of that, here's all the things that you learn and can do and build, and this level of confidence that you get from being in the military. And that was one of many things that I had gone through where you kind of hit that rock bottom and then you build yourself up. And it's very similar for a lot of things that people do these days.
Yeah, those recruiters every time.
Yes, they do, especially when you're in the, kind of that age. If you're floating around going, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Who do I go talk to? They're very good and they're very persuasive for sure.
I remember doing that with my daughter. So how how did you morph into what you're doing now, which is helping people really listen to their inner voice rather than
Mhm.
listening to what everybody's telling them to do. Is
Well, and, when you talk about all of those different types, I've transformed my life several times over since being an adult, and as someone who at one point in time, I was living the American dream, right? I got my college degree. Well, I was in the military. I got my college degree. I was married. I had almost the biggest house in the neighborhood with everything except for the white picket fence. I had a six-figure job and I was miserable, but I didn't realize it at the time. See, that's the key. I didn't realize that what was going on, I knew something was off and I wasn't sure what it was. And then I started doing some self-help. I'm a recovering self-help junkie. We can talk about that too.
we all?
The books, the courses, the seminars, you name it, I've probably done it, looked into it, got the book, got the t-shirt, all the things. But I started realizing that I was living a life of other people's choices. And sure, I was successful at it. I was making six figures a year, but I didn't want to get up in the morning to go to work. I was in a marriage that from the outside looked amazing. It wasn't very healthy at all for me. And again, I didn't realize it. I didn't know what was going on at the time. I found out a lot more after we got divorced. But I was living the American dream. Why was something off? Why was I not happy? Everybody told me I had everything that everybody else wants. And that's really where I started to sit in some very uncomfortable moments of asking, well, what does Bobbie want? And I couldn't answer that. That's how bad I had gotten to where my career choice was because somebody else told me I'd be good at it. And then every move and jump in the career, you'd be good at this. You'd be good over here. Hey, you'd be good working for these guys. And they were right, but it wasn't my choice. I was just like, "Oh, okay." And I would follow that path. And that happened in a lot of in a lot of things. I followed my ex-husband around, but he wouldn't follow me around. And so what I found was I couldn't answer the question, "What does Bobbie want?" And I sat with that uncomfortableness for a lot longer than I care to really, um, espouse, because it was a while in that uncomfortable moment, in that uncomfortableness, and that's when I realized something had to change. And so I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know that I wanted to do this, obviously, at the time, but I did start to make changes in my life. And each change pointed me more and more and more towards what it is that I'm doing now. And then ultimately I'm just like, why am I piddling around over here doing all of these different things when I keep coming back to this idea that if I can make it through some of these things, then maybe I can reach back. And I learned this in the Marines. If I can make it through, but somebody behind me is struggling, well, then I sure as hell better make sure they get over it too.
Yeah.
And so that's where, that's kind of how this all came about, was this idea that nobody should have to struggle as hard as I have at times. And some people certainly struggle way more than I do. Nobody should have to struggle that hard to find a calling and a passion and do something that lights them up in the world.
I love that. And there are so many people that are struggling with just that. They're in relationships that look great from the outside, and they have the kids and the picket fence and the
Mhm.
big house, and their yards are just so, and they go on all the vacations they're supposed to go on. And
Yep.
it's like you look at their lives, and I To be honest, I don't look at them the same way as I used to. Um, but when I was young, I would look at them and think, oh God, they just have it all together. Their lives are so perfect. I want my life to look like that.
Yeah.
And then
It's the American dream, right?
it's
That's
the
what we're
American
supposed to
dream,
do. It's what we're supposed to want.
but it's really the American nightmare
It
because you
can
get
be.
trapped in a job, you get trapped in a house. And I live in a small house by choice these days.
Mhm.
I've had the McMansions
Mhm.
with, the 7 bathrooms and 87 bedrooms. And
Yep.
it's just like, I am a slave to this house just to keep it, not filthy. I'm
Yep.
working all the time. I don't want to do that. And my
Well,
kids all slept in my bedroom. So it was like,
and
why do
and
we have all this space?
I had like I said, I had the perfect life, but it wasn't by my choice. Now, I want to say that because it doesn't sound very empowering when you say that it wasn't by your choice. I obviously made choices along the way,
Oh, yeah.
but I made choices based off of what other people said. And that's where I can look back at it and go, huh, I can certainly tell why my life is kind of haphazard. The reality was, I didn't have a destination I was going towards.
Hmm.
And again, I don't know who says it. I've actually got to look this quote up because I know you can. If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. Right? Somebody way
Yep.
smarter than I am said that, and it's right. And I was on the path to of any road. I didn't know where I was going. I couldn't answer what did I want. And so any road was getting me there. And it was working, but it wasn't. It makes sense.
Yep.
And so once I decided, let me actually put something into my GPS. Let's not just let the map take me where it's going to take me. Let's put an actual destination to this GPS of life. And that's when things started to change. That's when now it wasn't perfect. Like, don't get me wrong. Like the moment I put a GPS signal in, it wasn't here's all highways and there's no traffic or reroutes or any of that. Nope, because I mean, I don't know if anybody else drives the
It's
way
just
that Mhm.
barriers start appearing out of nowhere.
Or if you drive like I do, which sometimes is, you're in your head or you're doing anything but, obviously paying attention to the driving aspect of it, you miss your turn. You take the wrong turn. You're like, "Oh no, I totally know a better way than the GPS is telling me."
No.
And you end up having to take U-turns or it's like recalculating route. And the reality is that's what life does to us anyways, right? Life is, the universe, God, source, whatever you want to call it, is the GPS system for us. So you've got to give it a destination and then it will sit there and it doesn't say, "Oh, you took a wrong turn. Give up forever." It says, "Okay, recalculating route." Sometimes it says, "You turn and go back because there's no way I can get you from this point to where you're trying to go." And I think there's a Chinese proverb that says, "If you're on the wrong train, get off because the longer you're on it, the farther you have to go back."
Yeah.
And sometimes we hit those in life, right? Because sometimes even the GPS is like, "I don't know how to get you from here to where you want to go, so I need you to turn around." And that's where we make these choices in life that as long as we have our North Star, what is it that's internal to us? Because if we're listening to all of these external voices and voices from the past, voices from, pick a news organization or a friend or parents or any authority figure that says, "Oh, da, 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 da." You're listening to all of this out here and it's confusing you. And that's why I do what I do is because there's so many people that pay attention to the wrong signals and then wonder why they're left with playing small, bumping up against like obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, and or just they're not living their purpose in life. And
Like walking through a maze.
it is. It is. And having a sense of direction, even if you internally don't feel like you're like, "Oh, I don't know where north is." You don't need to know where north is. You just need to know where you're ultimately trying to get to and truly trust that it will happen for you. but you also still have to make the movements and you have to make the change.
And working with you, I think people can shortcut that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because I don't tell people what to do. Like, let's be honest. Like any coach worth their weight, especially in this, in this type of industry. I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, well, here's the things that you need to do. You have enough noise outside to do that. If you want to know how to do something, Google it. You'll find the step-by-step play on how to do it. If you want to know what to do, I will show you how to listen to yourself and get out of your own way. Because the biggest, I mean, like, I don't know about you, but have you ever heard that little voice in your head that says, oh my God, you're not good enough for this. Why are you doing this?
Mhm.
Right? Or that little voice that says, who are you to be sharing this with the world? Or that little voice that's like, oh my God, what if they find out we're a fraud? Right? We all have those, but that's not us. We're listening to sometimes years upon years upon years. And if you're like me, you've got decades upon decades of crap that we've built up. And the reason why this happens, because there's a lot of people that are like, well, why are we like this? Our brains are hardwired to find problems. They are very good at it. It's
And
that
to keep us safe.
yeah, it's designed to keep us safe. It's designed to say, is there a saber-toothed tiger around the corner and do I have to run? Like our brains, is this food going to, harm me? Right? We're hardwired to find these problems. And so if your brain is left to its own devices, it will find all the reasons and all the problems to not do the thing. Or, God forbid, you make a mistake in something and you get this thing called failure that most people call failure. You get this notification, and all of a sudden your brain's like, oh my God, we were right. We're done. No more, not going out and doing this again. But all that is feedback that the way, very specifically, the way that you're trying to do something, or potentially what it is that you're trying to do, isn't right for you. So there's a lot that's going on there.
Yeah, there's a lot. And it really comes down to being able to still those inner voices enough that you can actually hear what your body has to say to you. And our bodies are talking to us, not our heads, our bodies, our physical
Yeah.
bodies talk to us all the time, but we have been trained over the years to ignore it. And that's why people have migraines and they have stomach aches and they have bowel problems and they have hip problems and cancers and a lot of times because they just
Absolutely.
like it's got to be stored somewhere.
And the body remembers. I think there's a lot of science right now, scientific
Mhm.
research that is proving the point that your body remembers things. And so whether you've experienced the capital T trauma or the lowercase t trauma in your life, your body remembers that. And then it does what it can to protect you from that going forward. And that's ultimately a lot of the work that I ended up doing both personally and helping some clients through that led me to write the book Healing Your Inner Child. Because as a self-proclaimed self-help junkie, and I had all the things. Meditation, vision boards, all of, um, rewrite your life, all this type of stuff. I've done it all, but it wasn't working, right? So if you've had the same things on your vision board year after year after year, why? Right? Oh, we want it. We're going to do the manifestation and the meditation to get it, and maybe we take a couple of steps towards it, but then we experience these blocks that stop us, that like we almost run head first into this invisible wall, and we don't know why. Well, what I discovered through a lot of trial and error and working on myself and pulling myself out of some of these really dark places was the problem that I'm trying to fix in the moment is just a symptom It's not the problem. So I did this thing called timeline work, which is where you walk backwards on your timeline. Now you can do this, you do this in a kind of in a meditative state, but you walk back on your timeline to go, when did this first start? And there's a point in your life where when you try to go backwards from that point and you're like, nope, I didn't have this issue here. So you'll find where that point is when you can work to heal that point. And it doesn't matter how old you were, because it could have been, the, oh, I'm not, who am I to speak up, right? Like maybe that's one of yours. Maybe it was a time where you were like, oh my gosh, I'm really excited to show my mom this drawing that I did in school. And so what you as this 8-year-old is like, mom, 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 look at this. And she's busy making dinner. So she's going to go, not now, sweetheart. I'm busy with something else. Now, to an 8-year-old, that can be very traumatic because, oh my gosh, I'm not good enough to share or to stop or to get mom's attention. And that seemingly small thing then turns into, maybe I'm not going to show her the next one, or maybe I'm not going to speak up, or maybe what I did wasn't good enough, and all these things. And it starts to stack over and over and over and over again, to where sometimes as an adult, you're like, oh man, do I hit submit on, on saying that, hey, I want to be on this podcast, right? Do I tell the world that I have this business, or do I play it small and just hope people find me? And so when you go back and you reparent and you give that kid what she needed in the moment, maybe it was a hug. Maybe it was that, just maybe it was, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Tell me more about it. It's not your parents' fault. Caveat, there are some times where obviously parents make bad decisions, but they're also
But
just, they're living their life. And sometimes in what is a seemingly innocent moment, you as the child needed something in that moment that your parents may or may not have been even able to give you. So you, as the parent now, as the adult now, go back and you give it to yourself. And then you walk forward on your timeline with this. And now, so you mean it's not the end of the world if I say, hey, I want to do this, but maybe I get crickets at first. And so that's where this idea of where you can actually really streamline and fast track the success of anything that you want to do. Because now if I've got this 8-year-old who I'm working with instead of against, who's now on my team working with me and for me in the right way, now when I do my therapies and my meditations and my vision boards, things start happening and moving the way that they're supposed to. And that's the power of getting to that idea of what's the originating issue that you're trying to work on.
I love that. So how do you work with people? Is it in groups? Is it one-on-one? Or is it a combination?
I have a combination of things. What I find really interesting about group work is so many people think that their issue is unique to them. And while that is definitely true for some things, most things it's not. Most things, if somebody deals with it in one way, shape, or form. And so sometimes group work can actually be more powerful for people than the individual one-on-one. But I mean, obviously, I have my book. I've got some packages that go around that. I've got a couple of courses, a group program, and I do one-on-one coaching as well, because I find that people kind of need all those different layers.
Different people show up in different ways also. And sometimes the big trauma or big T trauma, eh,
Mhm.
they need to approach healing from a safe space until they
Absolutely.
realize that they really weren't the only one that went through that big T trauma. I mean,
Oh,
even
yeah,
some of the
100%.
most horrific things I've run into people, multiple people who've experienced those kinds of trauma events in their lives. So they're not alone. And most of them
Mhm.
do think that they are they're the only one.
They do. And, I want to be clear, I'm not a therapist, right?
No,
Like
yeah,
there are
yeah.
some things that I believe in therapy. I absolutely think that it's got its place.
Mhm.
And and we can continue we can do like these surgical strikes on these different things that have gone on in the past. And what's different about me from from therapists, other than I am not a therapist, is I don't need the content of what you're dealing with.
Right.
So I don't need you to sit on a couch and tell me the story over and over and over again. We deal with the context of how your body feels it, how you're remembering it in your brain, how have you cataloged it. That is what makes this super powerful work. Is you don't have to share those details. As long as you know what they are, you can still go through the process and be guided through it to where that voice or that negative voice, that negative impact to you is no longer what it used to be. And
It's
yeah, it can either be put aside if it's not helpful, or it at least isn't going to be not helpful going forward. And so you can either say, oh, am I going to use this going forward in a helpful and positive way? Or am I okay saying, yes, it happened to me, because we're not erasing the past, but we're changing the way that it affects you now.
a lot of the trauma that we experience in life, no matter how bad it is further made impactful in our lives by the stories we tell around it.
Yes.
It's not so much the event that happened. I've seen this in my own life because it's not
Hmm.
like I know an event that was like the trigger for so much trauma in my life.
Hmm.
But just knowing, going, taking the time to go back and identify when it happened,
Hmm.
what was the catalyst, and and having an explanation for why it happened for me was
Hmm.
helpful so that I could move forward and not be like shackled by this
Hmm.
memory that has really like it shaped all the other memories of my interactions with my mom because of something that happened that I remembered one way for the longest time, and now I choose to remember it a different way that's more empowering for me.
Hmm. Yeah.
It, she probably doesn't even remember it. She's passed on, so I
And
don't think that I could ever talk to her about it, but
and that happens so often. So like, you get your teacher in third grade who is like, oh man, we might not be good at math, right?
yeah.
And then you internalize this. That teacher doesn't remember that they told you that you might not be good at math, but you'll internalize that because depending on, if you really like that teacher and maybe you made a mistake, or maybe you just maybe you had it in your paper and you're like, I got like 4 out of 10, but that sticks with you. And what's funny is you don't get a say in what initially leads to this inner child going, uh-oh, I have to protect from this in the future. We don't get a say in it. We do get a say, however, as an adult on how to interact with it, so that we can go, hey, guess what? We made it. We're a little bit older now. We've got some more resources. So you're talking about, the body remembers. Have you ever been in a conversation like with somebody and all of a sudden like your shoulder will start itching for no reason? You're like, and then you'll ignore it. And then it's like if you don't go,
Gotcha.
what's going on here? It gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And then eventually it turns from like your shoulder to like now you're moving like this, or even if you're scratching it, but you're still not addressing what's actually causing the problem. Eventually, you're like, it gets louder and louder and louder so that your body has no choice but to deal with the issue. Well, that could be an inner you going, hey, this conversation isn't good for us, or hey, there's something you need to be paying attention to here. And that's what I really help people with, is going, maybe these are the signals. So instead of the boss sent you an email, or you send out an email to your employees And maybe you get crickets back, even though you wanted a response. So what is a lot, why is nobody listening to me? Right? Like you'll go to this extreme response, or the boss sends you an email and now you're like, oh my gosh, I'm being called into the principal's office. So I feel so small. What am I going to do here? Like we have these unhelpful responses, instead of having these massive swings, maybe it's, wonder if there's something else going on here. Maybe I can go inside instead of paying attention to all these external sources and things that I've learned over the years. Maybe I go inside and go, what is this? What is really going on? Is my reaction um, normal for the type of event that has just happened? And we see a lot of this with our parents, especially if you've had a strained relationship with your parents, like a mom that says, hey, how are you doing? Or am I going to see you for Thanksgiving? Might be a normal thing for a parent to ask, but if you've got a strained relationship, now you can take something like that going, oh my God, and she's going to want this and all these types of things, and we can spin out of control if we're not understanding and kind of internal instead of listening to all those external things that are going on.
Yeah, it happens all the time. And until we slow down and realize
Mhm.
that it doesn't have to be this way, for one thing, and that there are resources out there. And even for like self-help junkies, this is a different approach. It's not a do it by yourself, read the book and hope you get results. It's come talk to Bobbie to see what you can do to um, take small steps in the beginning. And one of them
Absolutely.
would be maybe doing your free guided tap into unlimited confidence in 5 minutes.
Yes, that's one of my most favorite exercise, by the way, that I've kind of put together. So many people are like they don't feel like they have the confidence to take that next step, to pick up the phone and call clients, to make the post that they know they need, like all of the things. Like there's something that you're like, I don't really know that I want to do this. Or something that you have to do over and over and over again that you're just like, oh, I cannot get the motivation to do it. This type of exercise, truly one of my favorite exercises, is absolutely worth doing because it allows you to intentionally tap into the confidence that you already have in your body, and it allows you to use that in the moment. Now, it's not a permanent, I'm always confident kind of exercise, but it will get you to the point where you can go, I need to take this next step and I'm struggling for a reason. Let me tap into some confidence so that you can take that next step and continue moving, which, by the way, enhances your confidence to take that motion and everything like that. So this is one of it, it is truly one of my absolutely favorite exercises ever to do and to run my clients through.
Amazing. And they can get that at alignedselfmethod.com/confidence, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us today, Bobbie. This has been a great conversation.
Thank you for having me here. I enjoy sharing this message with everybody, and I think if it can help at least one person understand that it's okay and there's ways to be more helpful and more resourceful for yourself, then it's absolutely worth it.
For sure, for sure. And you've given people so many great places to start looking. And I really encourage you to learn more about Bobbie and her free guide, Tap into Unlimited Confidence in 5 minutes. And you can do that by visiting alignedselfmethod.com/confidence. And we'll be sure to put that in the show notes below. Thanks for tuning in with us today. To the You World Order Showcase podcast. If you're ready to amplify your voice, monetize your mission, and start attracting premium clients, your next step is simple. Head to thecoachesalchemist.com and schedule your free client acquisition audit. Be sure to join us for our next episode as we share what others are doing to raise the global frequency. And remember, change begins with you. You have all the power to change the world. Start today and get visible.